welcome back to the Win Again Clubroom. Super excited to have you here. We've got Bud Norris in the house. And Bud is, I met him, I guess it was several months ago, and just so much energy, so much excitement, so much enthusiasm. I'm really drawn to that. I like people that are like that. I tend to think that I've got a little bit of that type A personality. And so, Bud's a little bit different than most of the athletes that I speak to and meet because he's extremely curious. He really wants to know what's happening after he leaves the game and after he left the game. So before I go on much more about Bud and talking about him behind his back, just a couple of quick words about him. He born and raised outside of or near San Francisco, the Bay Area there. He attended school nearby at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I think I said that right. And was a stalwart, which is a word that means he was pretty damn good. Then he was drafted by the Astros when they were a likable team back in 2006. It was before trash cans and things like that. And he played for several teams. I think it was 7 teams in Major League Baseball. He had a 10-year career. He had a 15-win season back in 14, I think it was. Another cool thing is he whiffed 14 guys in a game. That's pretty damn good. But I'm impressed. And also struck out 4 batters in an inning once, which means that his catcher made a boo-boo. But hey, man, that's cool. 4 batters in an inning. So lots of accomplishments. But most importantly, I believe, is that he's really coming out of that retirement and transition into some really great new stuff. We'll be talking about that in a few minutes. So, Bud, I hope that was enough to get you rolling, and we're off and running here. So why don't you come on in and welcome to Bud, hailing from Austin, Texas right now. Do you have an
Hey,
Austin
hey.
accent?
No. I'm from California, but I live here now.
So will you start? I mean, is there an Austin accent though? It's more like a Dallas accent or something, right? Or
There's some slang in there, a lot of y'alls and
yeah.
stuff like that. But the deep Southern accents come from Houston and Louisiana, other parts. Dallas doesn't really have one either, in my opinion.
Now, in Austin, is there also stuff like the whole bull riding and bronco riding and stuff like that, or is that more still?
That's still more south. Actually, last weekend there's a thing called the Houston Rodeo, which is a big time in Houston. Gathers a lot of people around, and didn't get down there for that. But Austin is not known for the rodeo.
So what are they known for?
Well, right now, I'd like to think this is the fastest growing city, and there's a lot of business coming this way. All kinds of people from the East Coast and West Coast have circulated here and ended up here. And I like to think it's the California of Texas, but it's really just an incredible place, and I'm happy I've been here as long as I have.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's clear that you've settled in, and you really dug in some roots. Fabulous home, great neighborhood, some really interesting neighbors, and future neighbors, it sounds like. So that's really awesome. So I want to jump in first and really talk a little bit about baseball itself. We just came out of, excuse me, a fairly, well, they're always acrimonious, but a disagreement amongst the players and the owners. What do you think are some of the things that you were surprised to see come out of that?
Oh, there was a lot. I mean, obviously, the lockout wasn't something we wanted. That was a landscape we tried to avoid at all costs. But I think from what I took away from the players and the Players Association is that we were united and there's some things that we wanted to dispute. The Major League Baseball and the owners have tried to implement things of change that we haven't got to vote on. Things that are coming up a lot is talking about robot umpires and all the cameras on the field and various things of that nature. So that's just our last chance to kind of defend the integrity of the game that's been around for 100 years. So I felt it was very important for our guys to be united this year, be educated by Tony Clark, our president of the Players Association. So unfortunately, it did get to a lockout standpoint after we didn't agree to a collective bargaining agreement, but they were unified and they were ready. And so there will still be some implementation coming down in the years to come. But thank God baseball's back, and we agreed to some of the bigger things that we needed to agree to.
So I agree to all of that. Now, in terms of some of the rule changes and whatnot, are there any that stand out that you actually thought, gee, that's a pretty good idea?
I think the one they made recently is they enlarged the size of the base. So first base is probably a foot by foot. They've now made it bigger, so that will keep injury, concussions and collisions on the field will definitely come down from there. So that's kind of a positive. But like I said, they were talking about moving the mound back, and we're not all for that. And there's all kinds of other stuff out there. So I'm glad we could agree on some little things and continue to work on the big things.
saw the other day that the average age of a fan or the baseball fan is 57, 57. So obviously, we got to figure out ways to get that younger and get more sort of whether it's kids, teenagers, young adults to the games. What do you think are a couple things that are preventing that age group from coming?
Well, I think just today, as we see the world evolve and how fast we get information from Twitter to Facebook or anything along those lines, information is instant. And as you know, a baseball game takes a while. It's a 3 hour and a half game, and it takes 9 innings. So being attentive for all 3 hours, understanding the chess game within the chess game, stuff of that nature is hard to stay around. And as you know, the kids are getting subjectively out of it. They're not keeping that attention span. So that's been difficult, but for me as a player, former player, that's what I loved about it. That's what I love was the game in the game and the nuances of it. So, but I do agree that we're trying to speed up the game. They're putting shot clocks on pitchers. We're trying to shorten the time in between innings now to get the TV going to keep the action on the field going so that we can get to the finish line a little bit quicker and keep people more engaged.
One of the things that I've read about, and I think when you're talking about engagement, when I bring some younger fans or family to the game, they'd be watching the game, but they're also looking at their phone, looking at their phone, looking at their phone. So, I wonder if there are ways that you can integrate certain things. Like if you're a ticket holder, so this is an idea I had with a guy that runs a ticketing company. I said, look, what about if you're a ticket holder of a certain kind? Let's say you pay up for something, that you get a specific thing on your phone that allows you access to in-game content, whether it's video content, whether it's different types of replays or even updates on stats or who knows what, but something that you get above and beyond that keeps you engaged. That could be really interesting. And I think the one other thing, and I'll ask you how you feel about this, but the idea of actually being able to sit in your seat and just gamble on almost like a pitch by pitch basis, like, is the next pitch going to be a curve or a slider? Boom.
I mean, that opportunity is out there, and I think the landscape can get there. But once again, for me, it's always been the product on the field. And like you
Yeah.
said, if that's an issue and it's slowing down, then we need to be forward thinking, and we need to find ways to speed it up. The statistic that's blown me away the last couple of years is that when I got into Major League Baseball in 2009, they would say only about 22% of the plays were a walk, a strikeout, or a home run. But now, in an alarming like 33% of the plays are a walk, a strikeout, or a home run. So you're not seeing as many defensive web gems. You're not seeing as
Right.
many double play balls. You're not seeing other action things on the field. So that's when it gets boring. And so, in my opinion, that's the type of the game that we need. So that's why we've talked about moving the mound back and what advantages the hitters have now and what a laser strike zone would do for them. So there's always going to be that conversation, and obviously the product on the field is an incredible product. And that's what I want to. I want to worry about the integrity of the sport and want to continue to see it advance.
Are you familiar with the Savannah Bananas? And
Yeah, that's Eric Burns.
yeah,
I've recently seen that. It's very interactive. It's comical at sometimes, but it's fun. It keeps it very lighthearted.
well, those guys, yeah, they all have a blast. I saw some like a really funny thing with a guy. He came walking to the plate, and his bat was a guitar, and he started playing something. Another guy came to the plate with like a flower girl dropping petals on the way up and stuff like that. So they're really kooky down there, but they've sold out every game for the next couple of years. I mean, people love that sort of thing. So it's just, I mean, they're really out there kind of thing. But I think if you incorporate some of that stuff, they're all about fans first. That's their motto, fans first, right? So I think that'd be incredible. They've got so many, they've got one thing where I think you pay a flat fee for the year and you can go in and eat and drink all you want, like open everything, right? Well, except for booze. But so I'd love to see. I agree with you, but I think that if there's a way to really make the product on the field much more interesting, exciting, they won't need to look at this, right? The fans.
I mean, the product is exciting. It just gets slowed at times, and that's what makes it hard. All the pitching changes, those are the things that we're trying to speed up. So having the reliever come in takes 7 minutes to get one out in 4 pitches. Stuff of that nature is the conversation piece. But I do like the family, engagement, interaction, and people ask all the time, where is it the most fun to go play? Well, one of my favorite things in the big leagues is going to Milwaukee, and they have the sausage race where they basically find 5 contestants in the
That's
stands,
right.
adults, or they do it on Sundays. They do the little kids, and they put them in these sausage uniforms. They all get a designated number, and they run around the track. in the seventh inning. So I think there's always ways to do that, but let's not take away from the product on the field. Let's let those guys have their
Yeah.
time and space to be the best that they can be.
Now, in terms of the game itself, that there are some other interesting, proposed rule changes. Well, hey, how do you feel, by the way, about the universal DH? I mean, you used to take your licks.
I guess I'm opening up to it because now it has been implemented. But in my honest opinion, my grandpa, that was the game he taught me. He loved to watch the pitchers hit. You got to be offensive. You got to help your team in an offensive form. But instead of your pitching, you're only playing defense. So that's just my thought process and my mentality that the game had been around for 100 years, but now it's changed. So I'll get with it. I'm okay with it, but it basically it gives one more position to another hitter that might not be the best defensive player. So it gives the pitchers gives them an opportunity to focus solely on pitching, which is what they basically get paid to do, and it gives somebody else an opportunity to go hit.
All right, who paid you to say that? Come on.
That was well said. It was well rehearsed.
Thanks, Tony Clark. No, come on. I mean, I have to think that, when you step up to the plate, you're just fired up to crush it. You got to be, right?
Your adrenaline's running. I mean, it's not what you're doing. It's not your normal environment. You don't hit a whole lot. Right. 9 times out of 10, they're asking you to bunt the next guy over to the next day. So, but once again, I took pride in that. I took pride in being able to bunt, practice it a lot. And if I could help my team and help myself get a win, why not do that?
All right. So I haven't looked, I'll be honest. So I don't know if I'm entering dangerous territory here, but tell me a little bit about your hitting stats and stuff. How'd you do at the plate?
I think I'm like a career 180, 185 hitter.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I have a decent average for a pitcher. What I like to tell people is I went single, double, triple. I didn't hit a home run. I never hit one over the fence, but I do have a career. I have a career triple, which is pretty comical.
You made it. Were you gassed?
Well, we were already down 9-0, and I came in from the bullpen, and so I pitched the third through the fifth. But I batted first for the third inning. I hit a ball over the left fielder's head in Pittsburgh, Gregory Polanco, running hard into second base, and I see the third base coach. I said, stop, but I see him kind of lob the ball into the infield. So I'm like, oh, I'm getting that extra base. I go slide into third base head first. My former manager, Bo Porter, goes, what are you doing? Trying to get me fired? Because you just don't want your pitchers sliding, hurting their hand, hurting their finger. But it fired up my dugout. Once again, you don't see that every day. I got the troops rallied up, and I'm pretty sure we came back and won the game. So the career triple.
You're down that much? Wow.
That's the thing. You play a 160-game season,
yeah.
and now we're seeing all these playoff teams are getting in by 1 or 2 games. So if you can have that, monumental one game where it shifts in yours and really kind of carry the tide for the rest of the year, it's a big momentum swing.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I think so many people say, oh, if a team goes, let's say 5-13 or something in April, or 5, whatever, and people are like, oh, it's only April. No, every game counts the same. Every game, you need to win every game, and it's a grind. I mean, 162. It's tough to stay focused every single second of every single game, but I try to tell people that what makes what you did so tough is that when you're pitching and you're starting, you're throwing up to 100 pitches or more, every pitch can mean the difference of your team getting in or not getting in the playoffs. I mean, you give up that one home run, a go-ahead home run, and that swings at that one game. That's it. Now I know that's putting a lot of pressure, but the point being that every player should be completely engaged every moment. And if I see some players that I feel are mailing it in, that really ticks me off. I mean, just my 2 cents.
I agree, but once again, please understand how mentally strenuous that hard that is, and you have to know when it's your time to shine and when it's your time to just be a teammate. I remember my last season in 18 with the Cardinals, I had 28 saves and 32 or 33 opportunities. So I think of those 5 games. Well, we did miss the playoffs by 1 game that year, and then I could go back and I could pinpoint I should have done this or I should have done that. No, you can't. You have to learn on the fly. Truly, you have to take the learning lessons as it comes to you and try not to make the next mistake again. My mom would say, the first time is a learning lesson. The second time is an actual mistake. So take your homework, take your cup of sugar, take your cup of salt, and get on with it and learn. Like being a closer, I had to go get the save the next day, so I wanted to be more prepared for the next day than I was that day. So it's a mentality, like you said.
Yeah, I think people sometimes don't realize that, especially people that are not playing a professional sport, they don't realize how much of this is mental. And it's interesting because, the minute doubt creeps into your mind, you're screwed, right? If the minute you say, you know what, this guy might crush my fastball, I'm going to go to the curve when, you know, maybe you should stick with the fastball. It's what got you there, kind of thing.
I
Crazy.
worked I worked extensively with sports psychs after my second year in the big leagues, and it changed it. That's the only way I got to play 10 years because I had the right mental landscape every time I was on the field. And the worst thing is fake it till you make it. But I can promise you that by the time you cross those white lines, I can't be thinking of if my dog was throwing up. I can't be thinking if my mom broke her pinky and is at the hospital. I have to check in, be in my environment, and then it's glass half full. You literally have to coach yourself in a positive environment. Like, I'm one pitch away. If I make a good executed pitch right here, I can get a ground ball double play and get out of the inning, and then my team's on offense, and that's when you can shift. So it literally is a mental place of confidence of when you're out there to believe in yourself. Everybody talks about it, but actually implementing it and doing it. And how can you do that? Well, talking yourself, coaching yourself in a positive environment is the best way to do that.
Well, absolutely. And it's also, something where you need to understand that the person you're facing, when you're facing the batter, that batter's going through the same exact thing, the same exact sort of preparation at the plate, however they manage to do it. And then the catcher's doing the same thing and so forth. So, and again, I think sometimes people who are watching on TV or whatever it might be are just like, oh, these guys are just out there throwing the ball around, having fun. Well, no, it's unfortunately maybe, but it's a business, and it's something where everything can turn on a dime, and it's what makes the game itself exciting. So coming into this year, give me an idea of who are a couple of the guys that you are, I guess, looking forward to see play, and who are a couple of your favorite guys?
Great question. There's a couple guys that I just absolutely love, and I'll follow them for the rest of my careers. But I did get a chance to run across Bryce Harper last in 2021, and once again, I didn't know him very well, and I had my own opinion of him just from the outside in. But getting to know him and the character that he is, I will cheer for him and root for him all the way to the top because he's an incredible young man with a great positive mindset. The one guy that really turned the corner for me last year was a close friend that I played with in Baltimore. His name's Kevin Gosman. He just had a great year
Mm.
with San Francisco Giants, but signed a big deal in Toronto, and he's going to be back in the American League. So I'm excited to see how he's challenged going back to a division that he's been performed in before. But he really has the full pitch arsenal, and same thing. If he has that confidence every day that he gets out there, I believe that he can have that big mark out year. But other than that, my really close friend that I like, Mitch Haniger, is going to have another big year in Seattle. I think he's a sleeper. If he can stay healthy all year, I think the Seattle Mariners on paper are a very, very frightening team. I think the Astros have their hands full in the American League West this year, so I like to see that division shape out. But now that spring training is officially here, I'm going to see how these rosters, kind of shape up, and I'll let you know at a later date.
Very cool. How are you about going to? Have you been to many games since you retired, or not really?
I haven't been to that many, but I was
Yeah,
fortunate enough to go to Game 6 of the World Series last year. So I did see Game 6 where the Braves beat the
yeah,
Astros in
nice.
Houston, which was unique for me to be a fan in that environment because I knew Minute Maid Park as an incredible stadium,
Yeah,
closed roof with only about 1,500 people, but now there was about 50,000 there for the World Series. So
yeah.
different environment, but I'm happy to see the Astros, engaging and back on top, and obviously have a great organization going forward. But I was happy for the Atlanta Braves to get over that threshold. Freddie Freeman
Yeah.
is a good buddy, and I was happy to see him get a ring in a Braves uniform.
Did do you ever feel like when I go to see live music? I used to many years ago. I was in a rock band, and so since that time, whenever I see a band on stage, I'm kind of like, wish I could be up there. I want to go back up there again, kind of a thing. Do you still feel any of that? Like, did you feel that, when you were there, Game 6? Was there any of a, I think I can still do this,
I
or
mean, yeah, in my heart of hearts, I want to say yes. Like I love the game. I love nothing more than competing in that environment. And I dreamt of winning a World Series. I never got a World Series ring, so there's always that
yeah,
childhood dream that will just kind of sit there. But as you know, I've really made a healthy transition, and I've got a lot of amazing things and people here in Austin that I'm doing some stuff with. So I'm excited what's to come. I'm excited that baseball's back, and I get to watch from a fan perspective. But like I said, I'm happy I've moved on.
Let's talk about the moving on part. So tell everybody a little bit about, I know that I kind of joked about it a little bit, but leaving the game kicking and screaming was maybe a little bit of a harsh term, but obviously you didn't leave on your own terms necessarily. I would say a vast majority of baseball players, that's how they go out. It's not how they wish they want things to end. So in your case, tell me a little bit about, and look, COVID played a big part of it too, but tell us about your experience with how it went down. You had a great 2018. You're leading into 2019. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously it happened over a couple years, and the landscape in front of me, I had no idea what it was or how to navigate it. So that was challenging in itself. But yeah, I had a great season in 18. I made the full transition to closer. 28 saves is a great number, and 33 tries or wherever it was. And I was excited. I was ready to have, a 2-year deal and go pitch those last couple of years. But the landscape of the market for the free agents had changed. And the biggest free agent that winter was Craig Kimbrell, was the number one
Yeah.
closer.
Yeah.
And he ended up not signing until like June. So unfortunately, in 2019, I didn't have any big league offers. I only had a minor league offer. And I hope most people here can understand that. How does that make sense? How does this guy have this unbelievable season with a sub 3 REA, only getting minor league offers? Well, the landscape had changed where they weren't giving out qualifying offers and they weren't paying free agents to the caliber that we were used to. I think Major League Baseball owners had realized that players getting older were not as valuable as they were when they were younger, and I think that's across the board a objectively fair thing to say.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I was stuck with held in my hand, and I didn't know what to do. So I signed late with the Toronto Blue Jays and went to camp, and I tried to rush up my throwing program, and I unfortunately hurt my elbow, not major, but it was a
Hmm.
minor flexor tendon sprain and needed to come home. So I did not make the Toronto Blue Jays roster, and I was upset. I wanted to pitch and didn't have a job, and I tried to get healthy, tried to make my way back, but I had to wash. The whole 19 was a wash, and then I did have an offer with Philadelphia Phillies again for a minor league deal in 2020. And as you know, I was in camp with the Phillies in Clearwater Beach, Florida, of all places, and we saw what was coming from across Europe and from China, Asia, and we saw this, COVID landscape, and so our spring training got canceled. When I went back, I was in the spring training summer 2.0. Now it was a shortened season. I think all of us business people in the room can say they weren't going to pay me X amount of dollars for
Right.
60 games when they can pay a kid 550 or the league minimum and give them a trial and error. And so that is what we're talking about in the big landscape of Major League Baseball and this new collective bargaining agreement that we just signed, and saying we need to shorten the gap. We need to find a happy medium. That you can't weasel all these guys out and try. These guys got to get a little bit more on the front side too. So that's what we've seen in the collective bargaining agreement. The league minimum went up from 575 to 780. That's a monumental jump. Our Players
Huge.
Association
Yeah.
negotiated that, and so also we have new ideas of what to do around this qualifying offer. So the landscape really changed for me. I would have loved to have played a couple of years if that's what God had intentions for me. But as you know, I'm doing some other things, and I'm just happy to go watch baseball. I don't want fans to miss out on watching baseball.
Tell me a little bit about those first few months out there. Did you have a chance to do some relaxing and sort of having some fun, or was it, what was that like?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I put some financial means in the bank, and I have a runway for myself. But no, I felt pressure of like, what am I going to do now? I want to make more money. I want to be active. I don't want to just sit at home and do nothing all day. I mean, most people would
Yeah.
say they want to do that, but the true case is they can't do that. And I wanted to get back in the workplace, but I was scared. I was timid. I was afraid. I didn't know what I was going to be good at. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Didn't know what department I wanted to work in or anything of that nature. So I've been very fortunate enough to have come to the club room, and I've met some crazy, incredible people in here, and have latched on with a great company, and I'm helping push it along. And that reason is because I cared so much about my health, and I cared so much about my career, and I always tried to find ways to elongate my career and be, like I said, play 10 years, play as long as I could, be healthy when I get out. Like, I'm super thankful that I haven't had a major surgery on an ailment, and someday I'll be able to play catch with my little son, something of that nature. So, but I'm in a great place now, and I'm really excited about what I'm pushing across the desk, and I get to work in the baseball world again, which is exciting. Is all those contacts and those networks and those people I know, I get to work with them closely and continue to take care of my brothers going forward.
That's awesome. And so give me a sense of, if you were to give, and I don't want to make this a cliche question like the, 31-year-old Bud or 30-year-old Bud some advice. But tell me if you'd give some advice to, let's say you went back to speak to a current team. What are some things you would tell the players to give them advice to be sort of, is there a way to have them prepared for what happens when they leave the sport, or what would you tell them, or would you?
It's a tough way to navigate that and landscape that,
Mm,
because in my honest opinion, it's the X chromosome in our heads that said I am that good that
mm,
got us to that level in the first place. I think anybody in a sport would say you have a chip on your shoulder because you believe in your skill set, you believe in your hard work. So navigating that conversation is going to be challenging. It's like thinking about next steps, thinking about what's next. Well, you can talk about it, but it's not your focus. So I think it's got to be a healthy dynamic of, hey, let's be in our working mindset. Let's get our baseball or sports specific stuff done now, but let's check out of it. Let's leave work away for a minute and then go find our hobbies or something else that we can be, working on another side project per se. And that's something I would say is like, don't check out of what else is going around you. Be current in world affairs and everything else around you, because there's a lot going on, and you can't keep your head in the weeds for too long. I think a lot of, myself included, I think that I was, stuck my head in the ostrich hole and just kind of believe that, I'm only playing baseball. Well, that's not the case, and it's healthy to educate yourself, read books, continue to be relevant in current affairs, and educate yourself.
one of the regrets that I heard from some of the other retired players was that they didn't spend enough time actually, I don't want to say networking, but getting to know some of the people while they're playing who were, let's say, CEOs or C-level people or founders of or whatever it was, because they were, when they're meeting fans, they're meeting fans. But this was a little bit different where they had an opportunity to maybe go see some events or meet some people that were influential outside of baseball. And they say, when you're playing, you have access to all those people. And when you retire, a lot of people don't have that access. So I think that that's one thing I would absolutely urge current players to do is really focus on, even if it's once a month, once a week, once a something, to meet and add some new people to your circle that could be helpful to you down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every major league sports team has a lot of people in the front office, and
Hmm.
I got a lot of close with my PR relations because I tried to do a lot as much philanthropic as I could. Even with going to 7 teams, I went straight to the PR person because I wanted to go to a dog pound in that city because I love dogs. So I think you have a great point. I'm saying there's a lot of business people in that environment, and you can learn a lot. It's a $1 million enterprise, $1 billion enterprise, and how do they run it? Each team runs it differently, so you can learn a lot on the fly. And I felt that I did take a little advantage of that just by getting to know people, being very engaging with them, and asking those types of questions, whether it be the CFO or the PR people or whoever, ticket sales. So I do engage, like, yeah, you should go ask and learn, but once again, you're there to do a job and you really want to stay focused on that. But it's okay to get to know your surroundings and work side by side with the people around you. So if you're out there and you're still playing, yeah, work with your PR team and see what events are going on around you. You don't even know in your major city what's going on. So opportunities will present themselves, and if you can dive in, go for it.
Well, and just, opportunities present themselves when you make yourself available to those opportunities, kind of a thing. Because if you're sitting camping out in your hotel room playing video games, whatever it is, less of a chance in being at an event. But I also understand that it's tough, especially when you're a professional athlete. There is some of that sort of fan recognition, and you don't necessarily want to be out there amongst all the fans too much without.
Yeah, but these types of events you're talking about are probably
Yeah,
like closed door
yeah,
events that your team's probably putting on. So I mean,
yeah.
if you just say I want to just sit in on something, I'm sure they could find a place for you.
Got it. Now, real quick, I wanted to mention something. If any of the participants today want to ask about a specific question, there's that Q&A section on the right side of here. I see we've got a couple of them, so I'm going to ask them right now. But if anybody else has questions, please throw them in there. Laura wants to know, did you start your mental performance coaching and training in college, or was it after you were drafted or after you started playing?
I was opened up to it when I was in college. We did some. There was a guy named Jeff Troche. He worked with a lot of PGA players, and my baseball coach brought him into our team, and we did like a small meditation thing. So that was my first real taste of it. But I didn't really get involved until I said, like, after my second year. I think after my 2010 or my 2011 season, my agent Joel Wolf introduced me to a guy named Ken Ravisa. Ken Revisa was a bright mind in the industry. He wrote multiple books, but two around baseball specifically called Inside Pitch
Okay.
or something like that. And they're simple rates, but it's legitimately breaking it down to confidence and what to say to yourself when you're in between the lines. And so that was really helpful. But breaking it down, knowing what I was thinking when I was out there, what I was thinking after giving up a 3-run home run and then coming in the dugout, I had played mental games myself, and I had to break it down. So I will say that I didn't really start till my pro career, but I think that's where I'm at now. Is that I want to teach kids and younger professionals in their sport. Hey, it's creating a tension-free environment, and it's creating your best athlete or athletic form is when you're tension free and you're confident. So there's a lot to it, but simplifying it is a big part of it. So I had a lot of fun with it, and it's taken me a lot of places as well.
Now, I haven't watched enough footage to know if you were that guy that if you gave up, let's say for argument's sake, a game losing, I guess, home run or walk-off home run, were you the guy that demonstrated your disappointment, anger, etc., or is it more you, you know?
Well, that was a learning lesson I had to be taught at a young age, and I'm glad my mom taught me that lesson at a young age because I was a very hot-headed, tempered young child. There's one picture of me as in Little League just ripping my head off after a ground ball, and you could see it. But once again, as a closer, that comes with the territory. And if you're not a professional, then and you're not going to handle it well, you're not going to be in that role very long because you're not going to succeed all the time. It's just that's a given, right? You're going to fail. But I think that was the positives that I embraced it. I felt like I was ready for that environment when I got there. And even after failing and giving up a walk-off home run, there's two types of guys that are hiding away from the media or the guys that want to just stand there and do the post-game interview, take accountability and move forward. And I did a lot of that, and my teammates gave me that respect because then I'd get out there the next day and I'd be more focused, and they knew I was not thinking about last night, I was thinking about today. And that's a big part of it too.
Um, I think you'd be familiar with a gentleman player, Paul O'Neill. Ring a bell? So Paul used to come back into the dugout and basically demolish the cooler and throw his glove,
Oh,
all that kind of stuff. And it was funny because I mean, people, and I even remember he'd, take off his helmet and it almost looked like his head would explode. And he was like, but I think he channeled it towards hopefully success going. I mean, look, the guy was pretty damn good, but and then there's others that you feel like you're watching them and nothing bothers them. Like they'll strike out with a game on the line. They'll be like do, 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 and walk back to the plate. And I think sometimes the fans want to see what they perceive to be some level of caring or whatever it is. Like, look, I have seen when you ended a game and you have a habit of like do that and then you're pretty fired up. You're not going like doing all this crazy stuff, but then you do that. Hey, actually, who are you pointing at up there when you do that?
God,
There
God.
you go. Just checking. All right.
Yeah. No, so to that extent, yes, there's showmanship. It's showing up
Yeah.
the other team, or am I doing showing my energy for my own team? And so yeah, when I closed the game, I'd slap my wrist and I'd point up, and once again, it was a sigh of relief. It's like the game's over. I did my job. I was working in such a hard environment. Like that's the glory. Like that's the finish line. And getting a save was a big deal. You get to go in the clubhouse, and a big league win is a big league thing. So but I like you said, today in baseball and the theater that it is, these guys are getting a little antic driven. And I think my mom would say, let your talent do your talking. Let your talent do your talking.
Yes, I like that. Way to go, Mom. Great advice. Matt wanted to know, will they ever go back to wood bats in college? Do you think?
I do think so. I think that's coming. I think that we're seeing athletes getting younger, stronger, and smarter. Their nutrition's getting
Mm,
better. They're in the weight room at a younger age. And I think the aluminum and the way those things they're dangerous. A line drive back at the pitcher, unfortunately, has hurt some kids along the way. So I believe at least in college, maybe even high school, I think that's obviously the bat manufacturers would love to hear that. But I think that should be looked at more going forward because it's about safety on the field.
Well, look, and to me, there's almost no greater sound than hearing, wood meet bat. I mean, ball, like ball wood, not clink
The
or whatever it
crack
is.
of the bat,
Crack of the bat,
the
yeah.
crack of the bat.
Absolutely. All right. And then we also have a question. So, one of the folks here had gone to some games when the games were, under 2 hours. How do you think we go back to a shorter game? Well, other than a pitch clock, I mean, that's one thing. But and look, honestly, now the commercial breaks are 2.5 minutes, I think, and it used to be 30 seconds or whatever. Just and people would actually the fielders would leave their mitts out in the outfield too back in the day. But
I think the real thing there is that we need to get the game inside a 3 hour clip first, and I
yeah,
think that's what Major League Baseball has really seen is they've seen it prolonged too long, and we've gotten to like that 3 hour and 15 minute gap. And you're right, you're going to lose viewers for sure. So
yeah,
that's what we're trying to do with with these pitch clocks, with the shorter in between innings. But in my honest opinion, the simplest way to speed up the game is make the strike zone bigger. You have to entice these guys to swing their bat. They're getting enticed to walk now, which is fine. But we all know we want them to swing. I'd rather have you swing, hit a home run or a double than me walk you on 4 pitches. It's just that's
yeah,
what slows
yeah.
the game down. We need to entice the hitters to swing as much as they can, and then like you said, you're going to get more plays in the field. You're going to get more action on the field. And once again, I think that speeds up the game. It's a long shot, but that's the pitcher speaking for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say they'll just say, "Hey, how about throw better pitches? Put your one in."
Well, I'm trying to get you out. I'm not trying to throw right down the middle to give you a double. I'm trying to get you out.
What's better, a double or a walk? No, I'm kidding. Looping back around to something we were speaking about earlier. Um, I remember when we first started chatting, you were a little bit concerned, and I don't know if the term is nervous, but you weren't fully confident yet of of diving into potential, whether it's investments in companies or doing business with some companies or products or whatever it might be. And then it seemed like after a little bit of time, you realized that you really did know your stuff, and you're a smart guy, and you can apply a lot of things that you learned playing baseball into the business world. What do you think are some of the things that shifted for you? And what was it that moment that you sort of said, well, wait a minute, I actually understand, I know this stuff, I can do this stuff.
Like I said, I guess I knew it. I mean, I was taught a lot as a young kid from my father, who's a financial advisor, and I did go to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo
Mm,
as a marketing major and business major. So I mean, I was in the landscape, but I turned it off for a while, and I didn't have the vocabulary. I didn't have the skill set that I thought I had, and so I just had to get more confident with me. And I think coming into the club room definitely helped out. Speaking with you, saying no, but like you're a former professional athlete. You've worked with a team. You've dealt with failure. You have all these incredible skill traits that get you back on the horse. That's what people want in a working environment. So that's definitely given me a lot more confidence than I didn't have to begin with, because I was like, well, what do they want to talk to me for? Well, I think
mhm.
that I've really flipped that switch, and I'm thankful that I have that confidence now, and some good things have matured. And like I said, it just gives me the confidence to go forward and continue to be in the business world, because good things will probably come my way.
Well, and you mentioned, you talk about the flipping the switch and that sort of thing, but what, what would you then tell other athletes that are coming out? Because look, what happens is, and you know this as well as anybody else, professional athletes are in the spotlight, and whether you're the A-lister or the B or the C, it doesn't matter where you are in the totem pole sort of a thing of the game. You're approached by lots and lots of people that I don't want to say want your money, but they want your money to an extent, and they want you to, whether it's, hey, invest in my new, I've got this new whatever it is, this plastic cup that turns into metal, overnight or something, whatever it is, and part of the athletes will be like, wow, that's really cool, and they get, I don't want to say sometimes easily taken by that, and then there are others who are sad enough to look into what is it that makes that plastic turn into metal and that sort of thing. But you're approached a lot, and what I tell people, and I talk about this all the time, is the idea of being proactive and not reactive. Don't react to all the people coming at you, but instead reach out to those people that you think, wow, this person would be really great to team up with. I really like their product, I really like what they're doing. But tell me a little bit about when you were playing, were there people coming after you with stuff, or not, or more so now that you're retired?
Yeah, I'd say more after. I felt like a lot of the stuff that I got across my desk when I was playing was like restaurants and breweries, and things that weren't going to mature, just not great investments. And I'm very fortunate to have my father as a financial advisor, and I got to look through these decks, and I got to like sit down and ask the questions directly to him. So I think
Right.
that's the question, is like, work with, if you're in professional sports and you have a financial advisor, someone's watching your money, Ask that guy all the questions. Learn through that guy or that woman everything you can. Get all of the information, and don't be afraid to ask the dumb questions. Like I think people will give you that grace of like learning it again, because it's right there in front of you and you can learn it. So I'm just I believe in that. Most of the deals that I had in the workflow came after, and I've done my homework. I'm taking my time to learn these things. A lot of these deals don't need to be, they don't happen overnight, and you shouldn't be forced to the finish line. They should just
Mhm.
come at you, and if it's a right fit, it will fit. So once again, but what you're saying is find the things that are really cool to you, and seek out to those people, seek out to those companies, and try to find someone that you might know on the inside to talk to and learn from, and see if you can work potentially under that company hood, because there's a lot of opportunities out there. And obviously in today's landscape, it's about it's pushing things and getting information out and getting it to people across the board.
Cool. That's great. Great answer. Now, Samaya has a question. She wants to know, speaking of teaching, do you try to either teach kids or you involve clinics and that sort of thing? Tell me a little bit about that. And
This is
uh,
perfect. This is a
yeah,
great question. So thank
yeah,
you. As you know, I love baseball and I love
yeah.
my tutelage, and I've worked closely with some high school kids up here in Austin, Texas, and but I don't have a far reach, and I can only do one lesson at a time for an hour. But in this beautiful club room, I've gotten in contact with a company called critique.com. I will be have my page will be going up here soon, but it's an opportunity for kids and or girls, baseball or softball, to send a professional in that avenue their own video, whether it be a hitting video or a pitching video. They can send it to me, someone like me in that field, and I will give a solid critique. So I'll get, they pay $15 or whatever it may be, and I will give them a critique. I have an opportunity to put a, flashlight on that, foot, and I want to move the foot and say, no, you need to create a better healthy angle. But once again, that's a directive to me. I can do that from my phone. I don't need an hour-long lesson. So that's one beautiful landscape I will be working for in going forward, is with critique.com, so I can get my tutelage out there and help kids that have directed questions to me. They now have a direct reach to me. And I think critique.com is a very, very cool site for that.
Wow, that was like some excellent product placement. What's that bright shining orb above your head?
Yeah. Yes.
I love it. That's the
So
Alvin, I believe. Good.
something I spoke about briefly is that during my playing days, I was always trying to find an advantage to stay healthy and feel better. And that's a challenge when you're playing 160 games in 185 days and you're flying across the country in the middle of the night. You're just trying to find all the advantages. And one of the best things I found was this thing called Normatec, which is those air compression leggings. But this new company, I've been very, very fortunate. I've ran into Kyle Harris, who's here today. He's my partner and colleague now, and I'm happy to learn from him and work under him. But we are pushing the company BrainLit here in North America. This company is based out of Sweden. The creator of Bluetooth, it, has 8 patents around this beautiful light technology that is giving you the health benefits of sitting outside in the sun. When we were hunter gatherers, we got 200,000 lumen a day. And today in our working landscape, you're not like a Major League Baseball player or a professional golfer where you're outside for 4 hours a day
Yeah.
and we're not getting healthy light. We all have trouble sleeping. We all have trouble with our serotonin and our melatonin levels. Our circadians are off. And so this is a beautiful company out of Sweden called BrainLit. And like I said, I've been working with them. I will say that we were in front of the mirror 3 weeks ago. They loved it. They're retrofitting their entire clubhouse with this product because they know every day their ball players get to the field around 1, 2 o'clock and don't leave that environment until 11 p.m. And you're in a dark, dark dungeon. You're not giving your body the health benefits it needs to recover and to propel. So once again, 160 games in 185 days. I know that my buddies will be feeling better when the playoffs come around because they've had this healthy passive lighting system around them for the entirety of the season, and they will have a leg up on their competition. So I'm excited to see and push this in Major League Baseball and other avenues across the country. But this is very, very exciting stuff, and it's overall health and wellness. And I'm very thankful to be working with Kyle and the BrainLit team.
Nicely stated. Well done. You're hired. Congrats. Back when you were looking at some of these things, whether it's new things, part of your concern was, I don't want to say failure or failing at it, but you were a little nervous going in because you kind of felt like, gee, I don't know if I can learn enough. Like, how will I ever know enough about BrainLit or about Critique or about Beamer or about some other products, right? How have you gotten past that initial fear of that failure?
Yeah, I'd call it a hurdle. It's just an absolute. It's a little hurdle that you just get to this a wall and you get scared or timid. Well, educate yourself. I had to go out and learn. I had to go to dive deep into these websites and and really read the fine print and figure out what they are and what they're about and what their philosophies, and it's all there. I think companies do a really good job of trying to get their product out, but also their brand awareness and then what their team looks like as a focus. And that being said, I've learned a lot. You just do your homework, take your time, read books, but do your homework on the things that you're interested in. And for me, it's always been health and wellness and taking care of myself. So this one attracted to me and resonated towards me for sure. And I just gotten to work with Kyle so closely. He's taught me so much recently, and I'm going to continue to learn. And obviously, I was just up in New York City. I met the founder Tord and the CEO Magnus, and it was incredible to be in a room like that. I never thought I'd have an opportunity to do that, but they were very excited with my passion and my energy for the product. And like I said, you can learn and you have a lot. You can bring a lot to a team, and I'm excited to be part of the team.
Well, look, and the key thing also is that, it's funny when I started working with athletes. I guess I was shocked by because my career up until that point had been working with traditional executives and people in banking, and I never ran into any concept of distrust. Like they trusted my advice because I've been doing this a long time, but they also, I didn't have to. It's funny when I first started talking to the first athlete that I was working with. He said, "Well, what are you trying to sell me? What's going on?" I said, "What do you mean? I'm trying to help you." And he says, "Well, what do you mean? No one helps athletes without like wanting something." I said, "No, I genuinely, this is my mission. It's what I do." And it took a while to get past that that facade or that whatever you call it, right? The thing. How how do you like get to know if someone's kind of full of it or not, and how what gets someone into your trusted circle?
Well, first and foremost is like you said, the first thing I said is that those things get rushed. If this guy's asking for
Mm,
something, it just gets rushed. Like the friendship doesn't mature, the relationship doesn't mature first. It's just the business angle. And like
right.
you said, for a long time, guys were always coming at me with an angle, the
Mm,
restaurant or a brewery or something like that. It's just like, yeah, that's fun to get it across your desk, but it's not always going to work. So like, and then it's you're kind of just wedged apart. You're not really kind of wedging together. So it's like, don't be forceful with it. If you want someone to work with you or you want to work with someone, let's work together. Let's find the landscape and the personal relationship first and then figure it out. But I think what you hinted at is like coming out of it, people were still trying to get angles. And you're like, no, I'm just genuinely trying to help you because you want to be in a good landscape. Well, Mark, I got to give you that. In the club room, there's been my forum for that. I've been very thankful, and I've sent some other kids this direction, and I will continue to do so because it's a hard transition getting out of college or professional sports. So being able to be in a landscape where you feel comfortable and like I said, good people and so forth. I've met nothing but quality people in here, and that helps a whole big part of that. And but take your time, ask the people that you trust, listen to your good resources, and like I said, it should mature, not just happen lickety split, and you build a relationship, not just a one time business deal.
well stated. One last question for you, and then we're going to go back to chatting with everybody back at the tables. But something I haven't asked somebody in a long time, but I was curious, Bud. So, if you had the opportunity to eat dinner with three different people, alive or dead, can be anybody, who would it be?
I ask this question to a lot of my friends, so I've
Okay.
entertained this. The first one for me is Gandhi. I always say Gandhi because he was the guy that had literally like inner peace. He found peace in a world where we are buzzing, going, going, going. I'm trying to slow down and get away from that quick lifestyle and slow down. And everybody talks about living in the present as being the present. Well, I think he had a leg up on that. So that's always been my first one. My second one, I actually met the person before they passed, so I would love to have engaged in a deeper conversation, was Arnold Palmer. As you know, I'm an
Oh,
avid golfer,
yeah.
and I think the golf world for me is a landscape that he kind of orchestrated. I felt like he put it together. And as you know, the Arnold Palmer Bay Hill Invitational is one of the bigger events of the year. So he not only was a player and nominated for so long, but he worked on the business side opportunity and grew the sport of the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
And then I guess for my last one, I usually say Babe Ruth because he was
Yeah.
such a known figure in Major League Baseball and such a persona as far as pitching for the Red Sox and hitting for the Yankees. Who was he? What was he? How much did he really drink? How many hot dogs did he really eat? All those fun little questions come up when you think about Babe Ruth, and what I could have entertained in a lunch or a dinner would have been a lot of fun.
I don't want to burst your bubble, but he had a secret addiction to kale. Oh yeah.
I'd
I
never
know
heard
that.
that.
No, of course. No, no one's done that. He ate a lot of kale, lots of he was vegan.
I'm
I'm
not
making
buying
that
it,
up. I'm
but
telling you.
yeah, I'm not buying it. You had a beer
And
belly for days, so that doesn't tell me that the
yeah,
kale
no
diet
kidding.
worked.
No kidding. But that's a great triumvirate of that would be a very fun dinner, I'm sure. I think Gandhi would just be kicking back and listening to you and
Us
Babe
three
talking,
just
right? Yeah.
ramble, yeah. And then we go, anything?
Yeah.
Anything?
Just be yeah, just silence, please. Anyways, well, look, thanks so much for your time, but I really appreciate it. It's been fantastic getting to know you over the last bit of time, and I think we're all excited about what the future holds in a lot of different areas. So, thank you so much for being here. You're the best. You're an absolute riot to talk to.
Well,
So,
Mark,
thank
thanks for
you.
having me. Like I said, this is a great venue and forum for a lot of us, and I'll be back. Thanks for having me.